All right, we're going to move on to old business action items, the adoption of the budget, and you will read the resolution adopting the 2013-14 budget, whoever's going to read it.
Whereas the Board of Education, Township High School District number 208, County of Cook, State of Illinois, caused to be prepared in tentative form a budget, and the Secretary of this Board has made the same conveniently available to the public for inspection for at least 30 days prior to final action thereon. Whereas a public hearing was held as to such budget on the 10th day of September 2013, notice of said hearing was given at least 30 days prior thereto, as required by law, and all of the legal requirements have been complied with. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of said district as follows. Section 1, that the fiscal year of this school district be, and the same hereby is fixed and declared to be beginning July 1, 2013, and ending June 30th, 2014. Section 2, that the following budget containing an estimate of amounts available in each fund separately and of expenditures from each be, and the same is hereby adopted as the budget of this school district for said fiscal year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tim Walsh. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim, the tax refunds are always a big deal in terms of determining what we actually come out. You said
Right.
we're budgeting the 2013 per advice of legal counsel. I mean, is that historically below average, or are we just trusting their number, or?
4 years ago, we didn't budget for that number at all.
Yeah,
We projected our revenues, and then we gave money back off the top. And if we didn't have money in the bank, we waited until we got money in, and then that money went out to pay the tax appeal. When I first came here, I said, well, that's something that we should budget for. We should have a line item to say, how much do we anticipate giving back? So that, under full disclosure type thing, that we can see that line item. But as a board, I don't know how to determine how much we may give back in tax appeals, so we go to our attorney, and our attorney is the one who tells us how much to budget. And the,
Right,
and the
that's my
last,
question is
in the
how-
last
what-
year or the year before, we've paid out less than that. And so that,
So they've got a good track record.
but
Yes,
that,
is
that's,
that-
you know, the way courts work. Obviously, we're in several lawsuits now.
Including the Riverside Golf Club?
And as you get briefed on those, you can see that under the best circumstances, things should have been done 2 years ago are still there today. And I'm sure the process of these tax appeals is the same type of thing, where it moves at the speed it moves at, and you don't really want to budget and then have to pay a lot more. So,
John, I think
Yeah,
you
we-
might remember when PMA or somebody was here, Kevin and Tim presented the history of refunds, and they ranged from about a couple $100,000 to way into the millions of dollars in a couple of years earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
So I presume our attorney considered the 5 years history or something to say that he still recommends we use the same target we used in the last 2 years, even though we came under
Under
budget
both
2
years,
years in a
yeah.
row.
Yeah.
And that's, I presume, why you gave us the fact that there's four, it looks like 5 big businesses that we have current appeals with, right?
Right, last year we didn't have any major, really significant tax refunds on money we had to give back, but we still have out there the North Riverside Mall itself, the Riverside Golf Club. There's a couple of the major stores in North Riverside Park Mall. So there's some significant ones that are still out there in the courts. And we just don't know how they're going to be resolved or when they're going to be resolved.
Plus, our lawyer, Arias, is a well-known expert on schools and taxes and appeals and that stuff, so.
Well, that's fine, but Tim says presume and expert, but this number's important. I just like, maybe he needs to come next year or whatever and tell me how the heck he calculates it. I'd like to know.
I'd
No.
rather have him be
I'd rather not pay
conservative.
for that.
Yeah. I'd rather be
I'd rather not
conservative.
pay for him to come and tell us
Well,
how
typically,
he gives us his advice.
typically most lawyers are
Well,
gonna be very conservative.
it's not advice. I mean,
Yeah, he's gonna-
I want to, is it a working average? I don't think I'm being unreasonable here to know how he calculated that, because that's a big chunk. If he's wrong, we look bad. I look bad voting for it.
But we also would
What do you
look
mean
at-
if he's wrong in which direction?
Well, I want to know how that number came up, how he
Okay.
got the number. I
And
mean,
we can
is that
ask
unreasonable?
the administration to go back and
I think it's
find
more-
that answer for us, but I don't think we need to have him come and tell us that.
Look, I'm not saying we need to, I'm not advocating spending money unnecessarily, believe me.
But you wanted him to show up here, that's gonna cost money. We can call
How
him
do
up
you,
and get that.
well, how do you know that?
Because
Yeah,
he
you said
charges
that.
by
He's a lawyer.
the.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, but you know what I mean? He's a lawyer, so.
You know, we're the client.
We can come
Call
up
the
and,
lawyer out to
we
the
can come out and
clients.
give us an idea of.
Yeah,
how
but
it's
you know, I'm
projected.
paying for advice. I want to know how that number's calculated. We're intelligent people. I want to know, is he like, I think this, or we do a Markov analysis and say, okay, we've run it 1,000 times, this is the probability it's coming out to that.
Okay.
That's what I want to know. I mean, he's just guessing, and presume. I
He'd
mean,
have
that
to
ain't
be-
good enough for me. Maybe it
At
is
some
for
level,
you
he has to be
guys.
guessing. He's,
Yeah.
Educated
it's
guess.
it's the,
Okay.
I'd rather have a conservative guess.
Well, we could
Well, how do
ask,
you know it's conservative, Matt?
well, let's ask him for his formula
All right.
and how he came up with the projection. Tim can report out that in September.
I think that number is based on what we actually paid out about 4 years ago. And so it's a
Well,
conservative number, but when you budget, you put in conservative numbers.
I like conservative.
as-
No, you know-
Yeah, I mean, that's,
But
To
we know it.
John's point, it's fair, you know,
Yeah.
if
It's a good question.
number one here, your RGC is saying they're gonna get back $1 million, and Sears is gonna get back 2 million, and North Riverside Mall has 5 million on the hook. We'd like to see the overall scope, and then how he whittled it down to the X number that he suggested we budget, so, you know.
Right. I think
I hope not,
we
but-
can get a projection from
Right.
Harris and how he's coming up with his formula.
It is fair. I
Um,
see that.
I mean, we spent $500,000 this year, if I'm not mistaken, in
Yes.
property tax appeals, and that wasn't even without any large, big businesses.
Right.
So he erred on the side of caution. We didn't get any of our big ones in, and we still almost used all 800,000.
Support Riverside people trying to get their.
So
Okay, any other
we-
questions on the
We can
budget?
re-get that to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Then one
yeah.
other thing, I probably asked this before. Tim, with the debt service expenditures reduced by $688,000 due to the payoff for our working cash bonds, what was that the last 5 years? About the same? Did we amortize it like roughly the same amount, or?
He had a 5-year
it was-
bond
Right?
for $5 million with 10 payments. There was only gonna be one payment in this year. So,
Because of the overlap.
so,
Because it's paid off.
yeah, you paid one payment in the first year, 4 years of 2 payments, and this is
The
the
last.
last year of 1 payment.
Okay.
So that's why there's gonna be a big chunk less.
yeah, next year it's gonna drop even more.
Okay, any other questions?
Because-
Marianne, take the vote.
Well, wait, go ahead, Mike.
No,
Okay, I
but,
just-
but as to how specifically it's 655,000 or whatever, I mean, that's just the payment and the interest.
payoff, yeah.
You know, when
This
they
is
sold the
This is
bonds,
basically the last payment.
That's the payoff.
yes.
That is.
Yes, okay.
So we're making one payment this year as opposed to 2 payments in each of the last 4 years.
So let me ask you a question. Before we adopt this in 2 different ways. If Arias gives us the information next week and we decide we don't like it, instead of being 850,000, it should have been $2 million. If we adopt the budget today, we would have to amend the budget, right?
Yeah.
And if this budget is also being approved based on the assumption that we are approving, for instance, certain staff changes in our closed, we'll discuss them in our closed section. And if we decide to vote on them after the closed session, right? So it's possible that, let's just for the sake of discussion, so I understand it, we say no to all those. Then we adopt the budget with these numbers, even though it's kind of like the line item, it's not there, it just is going to be, there's going to be a variation more from the beginning.
Correct.
But if there's a significant one, like the P-tabs, we would have to do it.
Yeah, I
Well, you're
think-
still gonna do a presentation for us on when we have to amend the budget at some point in the
Yeah.
future, right?
I think when you're looking at the P-tab number, he's not gonna give you an exact number. He's not gonna commit himself to saying, this is the number you should have in there. What I'm saying to him when I talk to him is, this is what we budgeted last year. Do you think that's reasonable for next year?
I think that's what John wants. What's the methodology you used? Even though we've still got these big things, outstanding, is that number still reasonable? You want some comfort there, and why do you think it's reasonable? Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we need to withhold or hold up the budget process, though, I think,
No, that's why I'm just
Yeah.
asking before we vote that.
because I have a
We
feeling like
understand
if
that.
anything, John, he's gonna say it should be more.
Okay. All right, seeing none other, Marion, please go for the vote.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Jepson?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Richard?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes.